Hey, how you doing? This is Chris. This video is it's going to all be about optimizing your Google My Business page. We talked about this a little bit offline. However, video is nice and it's always a good way to jog your memory. We're not going to talk about claiming your business page because that's a different concept. A little bit more details that go into that. This one, just about optimizing. And before we dig into the how, let's dig into the why a little bit. Your Google My Business listing, I don't know why they created it, but it's really, really helpful because it's basically, think of it as your direct pipeline to Google to tell them who you are, what you're about, and who should see you. Otherwise, Google has to figure it out, and they will do a pretty decent job of it. But since you can tell them directly, why wouldn't you? And that's what your Google My Business listing does for you. The other thing about your Google My Business listing is the different places that it touches. Because your Google My Business listing, well, first of all, it touches the review side of the house. It touches the maps side of the house. And of course, it touches search. And when we're talking the map side of the house, what we're also talking about, a very, very important piece of online real estate, which is the 3-pack, that those first 3 listings underneath the ads when you're in the search engine, especially if you're typing in a local search. That's any kind of search that has a location attached to it, like hair salon, Las Vegas. If you put that Las Vegas on there, all of a sudden the search is a local search, and then you get that page with the maps and all the other good stuff on there, and that's where you want to be. And this tool right here, the Google My Business listing, is the thing that controls all that, which is why you want to do that. So what we're going to do right now is dig into, assuming that you've claimed your listing, what you need to do to optimize it. Now, we're not going to do a down and dirty dive on that. That's the conversation that you need to have with me if you ever get stuck. Most of the stuff is relatively self-explanatory. This isn't rocket science. This is local marketing. So most of the stuff, as you've heard me say before, you can do. I'm here for the stuff you can't do. And I'm here to help you over the hump. This stuff that you're like, I don't quite get it. Cool. This is probably in your wheelhouse. So I'm going to get you moving in that direction, and then we'll go from there. All right. So the very first thing you need to do is sign into your Gmail account. And once you sign into your Gmail account, just type in business.google.com or google.com/business. Doesn't matter. You're going to end up in the same spot, because if you claimed your give me a sec. Business.google.com. If you claimed your Google My Business listing and you click enter after typing that, you're going to end up on this page right here. Now, if you just do you're only going to have one business right here, only one listing. Once you come to this page, you click on your listing, and then it takes you into your dashboard. And your dashboard is where all the magic happens. And in this dashboard, the places that we're going to pay attention to today, as far as optimizing your listing, is the post section, the info section, and probably the photo section. And then we're going to spend, man, that's annoying, a little time looking at this thing called the website. Okay. Now, I encourage you to get back here and dig in, because knowledge is power. And if you just want to be a passenger in your own ride, that's not a good look, but a lot of people do it. But there's a lot of goodness going on back here, and it will help inform some of the other things that you do elsewhere with your marketing. So come on back here and take a look. All right. So the first place you're going to start when you do end up back here is on the info tab, because the info tab is where you tell Google specifically information about your business. Now, before we go into all this details about that, there's one small nugget of you need to understand this. When there's this thing called the NAP, stands for name, address, phone number. That's how Google understands who you are across the internet. And it's very important that your NAP matches, because you don't want Google to have to figure out that you over on Yelp is a different you or is the same you that's here. We want to have the same thing. And when we say match, if you have the name of your business and the address that you're at, but you have 2 different phone numbers, that's confusing to Google. So if you happen to be using your cell phone as your business, and you change phone numbers, make sure you go through every place that you've got that phone number and fix it. And the other thing, and this is why I brought this up here, is that Google does not conform to other people. So whatever information Google understands is the information that you need to populate every place else. So for instance, let's see what I'm showing here. Let's say I'm going to use Body Spa Salon. That's a salon I used to work with here in Las Vegas. Salon Las Vegas. There's a bunch of them, but I'm just going to pick one, because what I want to do, Body Spa West. Let's use Body Spa West. All right. So if you pull this puppy up, you see this right here, 8751 West Charleston Boulevard, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89117. That is how Google understands that particular location. And you're like, okay, I get it. What are you trying to show me? If you put down suite and it has number, let's use not one of my folks. Give me just a second. J spell, J nails. Let's start that one. There we go. This is somebody, not a client of mine, but also in Body Spa. Now you see how right here it says 10300 West Charleston Boulevard, number 17. That means that in Google's eyes, the suite number, the apartment number, the individual location number needs to be listed as a number 17. Does it matter? Yeah, it does matter, because you don't want Google to have to try and figure it out. So if Google says that your address is this, make sure that across the internet, that's how your address is listed. That was the point I was trying to get to. All right. A little bit of an aside, but let's get back to it. Okay, now click the info tab, and then in the info tab, and we're not going to dig into this too much because most of this is self-explanatory. The majority of it that matters is self-explanatory. Simply go down through this page and add all the information that you possibly can. And that's the business name, whatever your categories are. And on categories, what I'll say is that let's say I'm making this video for one of my clients who has to do massage and an esthetician. Those two different categories. You can put those two different categories in there. You'll also see down here at the bottom where it comes under services, you'll see that same kind of thing. The bottom line is, look at every category that applies to you. And you're like, well, what categories apply to me? How am I going to know that? Well, click the little pencil and start typing. And what I mean by start typing, let's say if you hit add another category, you start typing, and it will start to auto-populate to try and guess what kind of things are there. But more importantly, it'll put down what things exist based on what you're typing. So say, let's say you're a hairstylist. You type the word hair, and all of a sudden, here's all the options for hair that show up. And then you just take a look around, see which ones apply to you. Say you're a nail salon, type nail, and all that comes up. So you can see a bunch of them have nothing to do with you, but you can see where nail salon does. And let's say fence contractor. You see that shows up, fencing. So you get the idea, okay? So Google tries to figure it out and help you out along the way. So you just figure out all the ones that apply to you. Don't put something down that's wildly different than what you do, because that's one against Google's terms of service. And the other thing is, it makes it kind of hard for Google to bring the right people to you. So no chicanery, if you know what I mean. Service area and address. Now, if you have an address that people come to visit you, then you put that address in there. If people don't visit you, you leave this blank. And that's me, for instance, if you have, let's say you're a mobile guy and nobody comes to your specific location, then you don't have an address in here. Because if you do, it's going to, on the maps, it's going to show a picture of the outside of whatever this is. And if it's like, say, your home, that's not a good look. So don't do that. Leave that blank. You're going to be a service area business, so you make sure you put your service area in here. And that service area can either be something as broad as the state, or you could do something like, if I'm not mistaken, 89. You can put zip codes in, so you can get as granular as you want, or you can leave it at as broad as you want. I believe you can even type in counties and stuff like that. Let's try. Yep, you can put down county, so you can kind of do like that. But that's what this whole section is all about. Where do you do what you do? That's what Google needs to know. Hours, self-explanatory, gonna leave that alone. If you have any special hours or anything like that, throw those in there. Phone number, this is a special location thing that Google does. It only comes into play as far as I'm concerned when we're talking about coming up with a link for reviews. Different video, we'll talk about that some other time. Your web address, where people can go if they want to leave appointments for you. Let's see, products that you sell, services that you provide. And let's see, last but not least, highlights. When we're talking about highlights and stuff like that, we're talking about this. You don't really have a whole bunch of choice in here, so I'm not going to play with this too much. I just leave that alone. It doesn't really do much as far as optimization, as far as I've seen, so I just kind of blow it off. Let's see. And then this section down here. Now, here's where we make a little bit of money. This is where you put down the business information. This is my elevator pitch. This is my description of my business. This is what I do. You put that in there. Why is this important? It's important because, unfortunately, even though Google gives you, service that you can punch in there, which looks tremendously like this over here, what you'll find is maybe there's some things that it doesn't show. Let me give you an example. Say you're an esthetician and you want to make sure that people know that you do microblading. Kind of a big money thing. You definitely want to put it down if people know about it. But if you type in micro, you'll notice that a microbiologist shows up, music producer shows up, microwave, but nothing about microblading shows up. If you put down, let's try and do a workaround. Permanent makeup clinic. That's the closest you can go. But you and I both know that microblading is a specific type of permanent makeup. So you might want to be specific. Well, you can't do that with these right here. However, when you roll down here, this is your opportunity to do that, because this is where you get to put in specifically what it is that you do, what services you provide, especially the ones that you want to highlight. Why is this important? Because Google reaches out across the net everywhere it can to find clues as to what you do, as to who's relevant to you. So if you have in your description the word microblading or any other terms that you have that you couldn't find another way to put someplace else, and somebody in your local area who's looking for someone who does what you do wanders to Google and taps the keys and types that term in, all of a sudden that particular term that you put in, keyed in, and Google's like, okay, you're one of the people we're going to consider. If it's not there, Google has to figure out whether or not you're one of those people. Don't make Google have to work too hard. Give them all the help they can to get the information that they need to you. Okay. All right. Last but not least, I got when you open and all that good stuff, you can add photos. We'll talk about photos in a second. I mean, you can click it right there. It's one of those, there's a couple different ways to get there kind of things. You can get there, but you'll notice there's a tab over here on the left-hand side as well that says photos. Now for photos, there's really a couple of things. The thing about optimizing your page is if they give you a spot to put information, put information. And in this case, they give you a spot to put photos. Now, Google has, you may have seen in the search engines where if you type something up, it'll say images related to. These images will show up there. So it's very important that you fill those out. But on another more strategic look, you'll notice that there's different spots for different types of images that go here. So you've got video, kind of important. If you have video, put that in there. If you got at work, that's you doing what you do. Pictures of your team out doing what you're doing. As you can see for me, I'm not going to put too many pictures of me sitting in front of this computer talking to you because that's kind of, it doesn't help. However, team, you put a picture of yourself or the people who work for you, and then identity, this is the identity of your page. Gives you a spot for your logo image and for your cover. I'm not going to tell you the dimensions of all that. Just make sure it's square, make sure it's rectangle, play with the image. If you really want it down and dirty and not quite sure how to do that, holla at your boy, 702-582-6708. chriscarter.net/appointments, and we'll skull through it. This is not something that's really worth spending a lot of time on because it's local marketing. It ain't rocket science. So we'll get you there. All right. The bottom line about this section, fill it out with as many images as you possibly can. And the only other thing that I will ask you to do, just as a good best practice, before you upload an image, change the file name of the image. So for instance, even though this says, this is my CC or C2, whatever I decide to change it to, the file name is Chris Carter Local Marketing. The file name for this one, Chris Carter Local Marketing -2, so that phrase Chris Carter Local Marketing shows up is another indicator to Google that this is what this is all about. And you should do the same thing. Whether you're uploading it to your website, whether you're uploading it to Google, whether you're uploading it to Yelp, change the file names to reflect a keyword and what it is you do. That's just the best practice. You should do that across the net. Just do that. It's just smart business. All right, so let's recap where we've been. We talked about the info. We talked about the photos. Let's see. We talked about the services. These are kind of redundant because if you hit that, it's going to take you back over here. Just go down through here and add your stuff in there, and just whatever you do. And then you're going to hit last but not least. The thing nope, that isn't last but not least. Sorry. Let's see. Do I want to talk about the website first? Or do I want to talk about posts? Let's talk about posts first. Now, posts. The thing about posts is you actually can add posts to your Google My Business listing. And that's actually a good thing to do because it's another way for you to add relevance to your listing. It's your way of saying, hey, Google, this is what I'm all about. And Google will post these online because that's where they exist. Primarily, they exist on your website. When you punch them in there, they exist on your website, which you should publish. And this, when I say your website, the website that's provided to you by Google. Yeah, they actually create one. It's got a really funky domain name. And they will offer to, put a different, sell you a domain name, but it's not really worth it. This is the weird domain name that you've got right there. But this website right here takes all the information that you gave it and it puts it all out here for you. Every last little bit of it. That's where all this stuff primarily goes. And the posts, they show up here. So another opportunity for you to tell Google what you're all about, throw keywords in there about your business, make individual posts about individual services, more relevant, that kind of thing. Optimization. This is one of the things you're going to do on a regular basis because, well, here's the thing. Local marketing is competition. That if you just showed up to the ballpark and you want to get into the 3-pack, let's make an assumption that those folks that are in the 3-pack right now didn't just happen to get there. Chances are they're optimized. You may be in a market where they didn't optimize very much and it won't take you very much to get up in there, but just assume that they did. And assume, just as a best practice, a way to keep your head right, assume that they're continuously optimizing. Well, then you have to continue to optimize as well and do all the different things that make you and your business more relevant to your target audience than anybody to your left or right that you're competing with in your market. And that's what this is all about. So if you get in here and you want to play around and you want to put that information in there, you're doing good things. You're taking care of yourself. You're taking care of your profile. Do that, because optimizing your Google My Business page, your Google My Business listing, is probably one of the most impactful things you can do as far as improving where you show up in the search engine results, the general ones, but more specifically, the Google 3-pack and in the map section. Okay. Now, this was down and dirty because, again, maybe I'm overlooking this because I do this a lot, but this is not rocket science. This is not set up to be hard for you to do. This is set up for you to be able to do it on your own. I'll step in when there's something that you can't do, or I'll step in when you need a little help getting over the hump. And that's the case here, again, reach out to me. You know my numbers, you know my appointments, my appointment link, and I'll get you there. But the bottom line is, this is something that you need to do. So optimize. Continue to optimize, continue to put your information in there, and then you'll be good to go. It's an ongoing process, and this is just one of the main stops along the way. All right, that's it for right now. More videos to come because there's always more to talk about. But for right now, that'll do it. All right, thank you very much. Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.